Oh, the power of contouring. You're gonna have to watch this video several times. Guess who's back again. Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel as always. I really appreciate it. If this is your first time here, welcome to my channel. My name is Jenny, and before I go on any further, because I feel like I only remind you guys of this at the end of my videos, please don't forget to subscribe. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Also, don't forget to give this video a big ol' thumbs up. I will remind you of this again at the end of the video in case you're still like on the fence and you're not sure if you want to subscribe. I'll remind you again. For today's video, I am going to be showing you guys how to contour like a professional, okay? I am super excited. I am going to be showing you guys how I contour myself and also my clients. This video has been highly requested, specifically by my clients. Usually when we get to the fun contouring part and they start seeing little brown spots all over their face, they start asking so many questions, and they always ask, do you have a video? And I'm like, ugh, I need to make a video. I need to get it together. I need to make a video. So today I'm going to be showing you exactly step by step. I'm trying to break this down as like detailed and as specific as I can. I try to make this video pretty much useful for absolutely everyone. I will say though, so you don't come for me, okay? You're gonna have to watch this video several times. Rome was not built in a day. Great things did not happen overnight, okay? So please watch it once and then watch it a couple of times, and I promise that by like the 5th time, maybe 10. You are going to be a profesh. Alrighty guys, so let me just go ahead and tone down my excitement because I am so excited. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. I'm going to show you guys exactly how I contoured myself to look like this. In the next clip, you're going to see that my face looks a little chubbier and everything. Ah, the magic of contour. Okay, so my eyes are done. We're going to jump right into this because we are going to turn ourselves into contouring professionals. Before jumping into the actual contour part, we obviously need to work on our foundation. So I'm going to prep my skin. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to spray some of this Badescu facial spray. Next, I'm going to prime. For today, I'm using the No Pore Blem primer. This is from Touch in Sol. For foundation, I'm going to go in with my Maybelline Fit Me foundation with a damp beauty sponge. This one is the Real Technique sponge. And we are just going to pounce. Bounce, 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 bounce. Alrighty, so foundation is on. Now I'm going to go in with a color corrector. This is from BECCA. I love it. I use it on myself and absolutely all my clients. This one is the Under Eye Brightening Corrector in medium to deep. So I'm just going to put this under my eyes to cancel out any darkness. And now with my beauty blender, I'm going to go in there and blend. I know that this part is not like contouring, but so I just want to sort of show you guys the steps you need to take before we get to the fun part, before we start contouring. So now I'm ready to move on to my concealer. I'm going to be using a mixture. You can pretty much use any concealer, drugstore, expensive. It honestly does not matter. You don't need to use expensive things in order to make this look poppin'. The moment we have all been waiting for. We are now ready to start contouring. Now we are going to do a combination of cream and powder because this is a video on how to contour like a professional. So first we're going to go in with cream. So nowadays there's like a million bazillion different palettes that you could use to contour, and they are great. I just simply like to buy a foundation. This is L'Oreal, very inexpensive, and it lasts a really long time. So you could either do something like this or you can go and get a contouring kit. Either one is going to work absolutely perfect. And the color I'm using today is Cocoa number 410. So this is much darker. much darker than me. And I know that for the most part, we always hear to contour with something that's like 2 or 3 shades darker than you. Now, I like to contour with something that's a little bit darker just because I can always be soft-handed with it and then control the intensity, versus if I have something that is too light, I'm not gonna be able to get to the intensity that I want. Like, there's a cap. If you get something that's too light, you could only work the intensity up to a certain level, and then it's just not gonna get darker. So that's why I like to get something that is more towards like 5, 6 shades darker than me. However, if you're a little bit intimidated by something that's a little bit too dark, because you are gonna have to blend it out a little bit more, you can totally get something that I would say go for 3 shades darker than you. 2 shades, it's just, you're not really gonna see it, honestly. You're gonna like blend it off. So I would go for something like 3 shades darker. Okay, so now placement. Placement is very important when it comes to contouring, because that's what's really going to carve out and start giving you the right amount of dimension to your face. That is what contouring is. Contouring is simply bringing back the dimension to the face. So when you put on foundation, you sort of make yourself look very flat, very dull. So the idea of contouring is to bring back the dimension to the face and also make us look thinner, make things look smaller, make things look a little bit more snatched. So placement for contour, we're going to contour our forehead, the outer perimeter of our forehead. We're going to contour the nose and also the cheekbones. Now, if you don't want to do your nose, you don't have to. Like, if you don't feel like your nose has to, if you have a smaller forehead, you don't have to do it. The idea of contouring is to make things look also slimmer. So if you have a small forehead, there's no need to contour it. If you have a very thin, very cute nose, you don't have to contour it. Like, there's no need. Usually I would say like carving the cheekbones out and contouring them is always a plus, because whether you have them already carved out or you're a little bit more like me, you got a brown chubby face, it's always nice to give yourself a little bit more of that, you know? Also, the jawline is another place for contouring, because you want to make the jawline look a little bit more defined, a little bit more narrow, makes it look skinnier, and God knows I need that. So let's start off the easy way. So first we're going to do the forehead, and I just like to do a bunch of little dots. By the way, whatever you decide to go with, just make sure that it's very easy to blend. So since this is a video on how to contour like a profesh, all right, I am gonna go in with another beauty sponge. This is Kween, it has no makeup. Ugh, it's almost a little too wet. So I'm gonna go in with a different beauty sponge. However, I know that this is on contouring like a professional, but there is no need for this. This is just me showing off. You could definitely use the same beauty sponge that you've been using up to this point. You could even use the back, or you could use the part that you've been using. That's okay. Like, it's not going to change anything. Just make sure that if you're gonna use the same beauty sponge that you've been using up to this point, make sure that there's not a lot of makeup on it. I'm gonna go in with my other beauty sponge, and I'm just gonna start blending. Now, to blend it with a beauty sponge, you just go up and down, tapping motions, but you are going to sort of like bounce and then push very slightly onto your hairline, because that's how you're gonna blend it into your hairline. If you just bounce it and don't move it sort of back, what's gonna happen is you're just gonna stay right where you put the little dot. Like, if I just go like this and that's it, you see the difference with this? I like blend it and I'm tapping and sort of like, you can't really see it because it's just the slightest movement, but I'm tapping and sort of pushing back. Now, if I just, on this side, you see how natural that starts to look? Now, if I were to just tap right here and not move, look what happens. That's not gonna go anywhere. So you need to bounce it, but you also need to give it movement. You sort of need to tell the makeup where to go. And right here, I want the makeup to sort of go into my hairlines. I know it's hard to see on camera, but I am sort of pushing it back, bouncing and pushing back into my hairline. Same thing, I want it to come in closer to my forehead. So I'm going to bounce and then come into my forehead. Now, I'm not gonna go into this space because I want that to stay highlighted. Contour, you want it to be on the outer perimeters of the face for the most part. I I know that at first it's gonna be a little weird, so you're gonna have to watch this video probably 20 times. So now we are going to do the same thing that we did right here. The same type of blending is the same type of blending we're gonna do everywhere else. So now let's go ahead and move on to the cheekbones. I know that the first thing we wanna do when contouring our cheekbones is do our duck fish face. And there's nothing wrong with it. However, it can be a little misleading. So why do we do this? So we could see the hollows of our cheeks. The hollows meaning where it indents in. And the truth is that's not where your contour should go. It needs to go slightly above that. If I were to fill in the hollows of my cheek with the makeup, I would technically be putting it right here, look. Right? That's too low. Your contour needs to go above that. So like right here. So what I like to do with my clients is I use the top of the ear as a guide. So I use that as a guide and I sort of bring it down and I usually align it to where the eye starts. So that's sort of where you want your contour to stop. So you grab the corner of your eye, you align that with your ear, and that's gonna give you a better idea of where your contour should go. Look, let me show you again. Do you see how much lower I would have put it if I entered it in the hollows of my cheek? And what happens is that when we blend, this line is going to spread out and become thicker. So if I'm putting this all the way down here, by the time I'm done contouring, my contour is going to be all the way up my jawline. So I know that this is the part that gets a little complicated, but use those things as a guide. Use the top of your ear, match the contour there, and sort of bring it into a slanted line up to where your eye meets. So if we were to make a little line right there, you see how that's where it stopped? So get a feel for it. Try this a couple of times before you actually decide to do this for a night out. We are ready to blend. Now we're going to blend the exact same way. We're going to tap, but we are going to give the makeup instructions on where to go. Do we want it to go out? Do we want it to go down? Where do we want it to go? So first I start bouncing on top of it. And now I want it to go into my hairline again. I don't want to bring it down too far. That's just going to give me the illusion of a little bit more unnatural contour. Like, I mean, I have big cheeks, so it's like nobody's going to believe that my contour and my cheekbones go all the way up to my mouth. So now what I'm doing is I'm telling the makeup to go out, but I'm also telling it to slightly go up. Do you guys see how the line is now getting thicker? It's because I'm not just bouncing in the same place. If you bounce in the same place, the line is gonna stay very sharp and it's not gonna be diffused and blended out. So when you blend something, it always needs movement. All right. You see how natural that looks? And you see how dark it was to begin with? So, okay, so now that our cheekbones are carved out, what I like to do is I like to grab the Beauty Blender. If you're using two, go in with the one that you use for foundation and concealer, because now we're going to clean up the edge. And what we're gonna do is we're going to start like in the middle part of the ear, because that's sort of where the contour is ending. And then we're just going to swipe the Beauty Blender out, and that's just going to give us a sharper edge to the contour. Now, if you blended it out and it already looks very sharp, you don't have to do this. So now we're going to do the jawline, and I like to use the bottom of my ear. You know what? Think of our ear. Okay, so I'm going to use the bottom of my ear as like a guide. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to follow the natural shape of my jawline. So you see, so it's like half of it is on my face and half of it is like sort of where my neck and my jawline meet. That's where you want it. You don't want it to go too far in, because then it's going to start to mix in with your contour. You want this area to be clean. This is just to create a shadow, and shadows pretty much go underneath. So that's where you want to go ahead and put it. Now this part, you want to blend it out really, really well, because you don't want it to look like your foundation doesn't match. We're telling the makeup to blend downward. So we're going to blend it a little bit onto the face, but then we're gonna blend it down. I feel skinnier already. So last but not least, we're going to contour the nose. The nose is the hardest part, but we're not afraid. So the basics of contouring your nose is to pretty much create two lines going down your nose to give it the illusion that it's much more narrow. So what you want to do is wherever your nose ends, sort of like the outer edge of your nose, you want to go in a little bit more, because if you make the lines to match your nose, you're just pretty much outlining what your nose already is. So wherever your nose ends, like, so for example, my nose ends right here. This is how wide it is right here. I'm going to bring the lines in a little bit more. So now to blend out your nose contour, you could use the beauty sponge, you could use a regular brush. This part is a little bit more difficult because it's such a small area. You could even use your finger. So I'm actually going to use my finger, and I'm just going to do the same thing that I was doing with the beauty blender, which is I'm just tapping it. And now I'm going to tap it and then bring it inward a little bit more. So we've been talking about moving the makeup in a certain direction to blend it. So I'm not going to blend it out because that's just going to give me the illusion of a bigger nose. So when I'm blending tapping motions and then sort of very so slightly moving in. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to set everything in place, because we're going to top it off with a little bit of powder, because that's how the profesh do it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set my under eye. Now I am going to add a little bit more of the concealer, just because I've had the concealers just sitting there for a couple of minutes now and I crease quite a bit. So adding a little bit more concealer is going to help me to blend out all of those creases. Now I want to make sure I don't bring my concealer into my nose contour that I worked so hard on. And now I'm just going to blend it out. So now I'm ready to set. I'm going to use loose powder. This one is from Milk Makeup, the translucent medium. So now I'm going to go ahead and place a little bit of powder under my eyes. I'm also going to bring the powder all the way up to where my nose contour is. So now I'm going to set the rest of my face, and to do that I'm going to be using one of these little powder puffs, and I'm just going to grab the same powder that I used and I'm just going to tap this all over my face. I do this because I'm oily. You don't have to do this if you have like normal skin or dry skin, or if you do want to, you could just use like a tiny bit of powder. So we're going to set everything in place. We don't want the makeup to move, especially since we're going to go over it with powder. You don't want the foundation to be too wet when you go in with powder, because it can make the foundation look very patchy. Okay, so now we're going to move on to powder. And to powder contour, I'm going to be using the Maybelline Fit Me powders. This one is 360 and I have 362. So a lot of times I'll use a combination. Okay, so the brush that I like to use for my contour is this one, but of course, I don't even have the name. Like the name, I use it so much that the name wore off. I will find the name of this and I will list it in the description box below. But I also wanted to show this one. This actually has a name. This is from Real Technique. This is the sculpting brush. So these two brushes are my favorite to contour, well, powder contour with. And the reason why is because you could see that they are a little bit more packed. And it is fluffy, however, it is tapered on the sides. So it comes in and gets a little bit tighter on the side. So it's not very round and fluffy. Like for example, this is what I consider a brush that's a lot more round and fluffy. The bristles are a little bit softer. So this is great more for like a blush. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to dip into my powder. And I'm going to start tapping. Now I am doing this so lightly because the truth is that the contour is already there. This, we're just bringing it out a little bit more. We're making it a little bit more intense. There's no need for you to like do this very harshly. Just very slightly. I mean, I'm tapping the skin so lightly. And now I'm doing the same thing that I was doing with the beauty sponge. I'm sort of bringing it upward and into my hairline. Something else that we can do, which is very profesh of us, is we can carve out the bottom of our cheekbone and bake, so that this can also help as a guide of where you want your contour. I mean, the contour is already there, but this is going to help as a guide. So we're using the middle part of the ear, and this time we're bringing it all the way up to the corner of our mouth. Why? Because this is going underneath the contour. Okay, so now let's do the other side. Oh, and by the way, the powder is a little bit lighter. So when I use cream, I tend to go darker than when I use powder. Why? Because powder is easier to make more intense, versus if you have a powder that's too dark, you could be very soft-handed. However, just the slightest slip up, I mean, you're gonna have a really hard time blending that out. So now I'm just going to slightly go over what we did on the forehead. Same thing right here. Okay, so now I'm going to finish my under eyes and I will be right back. I am back and looking so much more complete. We have officially contoured like the professionals. Yay! At this point, it's blush, some highlight, do the lip, and just wipe all of this powder off. I'm actually going to show you guys how I do all of that. I'm just going to sort of fast forward through the whole thing so you guys can take a look at how this right here is going to transform into a complete, amazing, snatched look. Alrighty guys, so I am back with our final look. Touched up my hair, put on some earrings, and I mean, I'm feeling myself. Guys, so this is pretty much it for today's video. I really hope that you found it useful. Explaining what you're doing while you're doing your makeup is a lot more difficult than what you think. So I hope that I did a good job. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. What are you waiting for? Also, don't forget to give this video a big old thumbs up to let me know that you like it. And that's it. I will see you guys in my next one. Bye. Fucking A. Get it together, Jenny. Get it together. Like, what the? Are these powder? Very circle. I really feel